Hello, my name is Greg Gibbons. I'm a citizen reporter. I'm using the LOOXCIE equipment here to do an interview with Barbara. Barbara will be talking about a lot of different stuff, but the main thing that we'll be talking to Barbara about is that the trials and tribulations of trying to get stuff started and beginning with the VA and her husband and all that stuff all between there. So, Barbara.
Yes, Greg.
Without further ado, please tell me, what was it like?
To try to get a husband to get involved? Well, probably a lot of women are like me, that you see the logic every day, but when somebody comes back and they're not physically injured, maimed, they feel that they don't need that service as long as they've held a job or you have a job, which I do, that keeps you covered with insurance. Why do I want to take something away from some other man? And it's hard to convince a guy that is walking around feeling as though everything is right and that he's healthy to sign up and take advantage. But where we live in Riverside, every day that I go to work out in Hemet, which is about 29 miles away each way, I drive past the National Cemetery. And I think to myself almost every day, here we have the opportunity to be buried there and not have a cost for one another, since we've had such a hard last year, the year before, with losing so many things, homes and a couple rental properties, that, you know, get off your duff so we can go in there and find out what it takes to even get your free burial site. Because heaven help, something should happen to you or me, or we're killed on the road, neither one of our kids, my kids, would know what to do, and that it would be a free thing that we should be entitled to. So that was one of the most stressful things in one sense, to know that I'm driving past this every day and that I just couldn't get him interested, because it made him think that, okay, if we're doing this, I must be getting close to death or something, because why is she pushing for this? Well, I know it's not a simple thing usually to get something done.
Oh, nothing is ever simple when it comes to anything in the military or I would believe the VA system. And
well,
due to the fact that you have other vets that are starting to call back home and everything else,
yeah.
It'd be far, far worse if you don't get started on something now.
Now, right.
That it would take longer and longer for it to happen.
Yes.
With that constant reminder of you going past this particular area and everything else, I guess that kind of made you kind of, for lack of a better word, maybe kind of sad or depressed that you didn't know what was going to happen.
What should happen? You know, all the steps to take. I was actually raised near Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was militarily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the biggest group of people except for farmers.
Mm-hmm.
People came and went. So as a kid, you saw that coming and going. But as you got older, you realized that some of these people's lives were just totally disrupted when a wife would be at one place and the husband would be brought home ill, and that suddenly that world ended and you had to move away and try to get help for yourself. So I'm thinking, you know, this is not a simple thing to just say, okay, because you're entitled to it, Dave, you know, what steps do you have to take? And I have a brother-in-law that lives in Kentucky, was in the Air Force, and he and my sister were talking about it one day, and I said, yeah, I've got to get Dave a little bit more interested in doing a few of these things, you know, taking care of this, because they had taken care of theirs. And so I proceeded to say, how long did it take you? Well, it didn't seem to take them as long to get paperwork squared away for their burial plot, let's say, because they have a son that works civil service at Fort Knox recording everything for the higher echelons. He travels the world with them, from Bosnia all over the world. He goes back and forth with whoever's going out to make a major something, or if they have the great big war games, he goes and he's like one of the top recorders. and video photographers for them. So, but he is civil service, so he said, Dad, this is the steps you need to take. So when I learned those steps, I come home and said, Dad, these are the steps you need to take. We'll get to it. So you go by another 6 months and you think, nothing's going to get done. And then ironically, one day you stopped by my desk at work and said, what's up, Barbara? And you said, well, I didn't know all of this. Let's get started on this. Let me talk to him and see what I can convince him that he needs to get started on, try to get this thing done. So that was the good part. I came home and I said, hey, one of the guys that we've worked with on kitchens and all different kinds of things, it's in the store all the time, came by and he told me he would help us get a lot of these paperwork all squared away. Okay, yeah. So then I said, no, he wants to see you. he wants to meet with you, Dave. There's another thing instead of the, oh yeah, we'll take care of it, you know, like, well, I'm going to die when I'm 110, you know, as opposed to it could be any day. With this day and age, it could be any time. You don't know what God has in store for you, so you just do whatever. But I'd rather be prepared in saying that I have it all there and leaving a plot set there for the next 20 or 30 years than not be prepared and need it in 30 days.
So it really was a big push.
A big stress.
I suppose a lot of stress. As you said, you kept reminding him that he had to get this stuff rolling and get started on it.
Yeah.
But he would kind of brush it off and say, I'll do it tomorrow. But as you were saying, nobody's promised tomorrow.
That's right.
And
nobody has promised anything.
And
the simple fact that we both are at retirement age, that, hey, maybe the other thing was, okay, we've lost all of this income that we thought we could have a very nice life going forward with, because we did have some rental properties. Well, with the economy, you lost them all, because we literally were shorting ourselves with helping out people that we knew were worse off, with not charging them over amounts, and we were eating a lot each month ourselves as far as taking care of these rental properties and covering some of the people that was in it.
So you were
shortchanging ourselves.
So you were basically you were good landlords, and you were being respectful.
Lousy money managers.
But you're a good landlord, but you're good people, because you knew that the economy. They couldn't afford to stay where they were or support that. So you just took that as not as a write-off, but you just, like bird, sucked it up and
sucked it up, and you didn't vacation, you didn't a few other things, thinking, okay, something one of these days will break free. And then you realize, okay, you're now like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years older, and things haven't broke free. So okay, you better regroup here one more time and think, what are you going to do for yourself? And I said, Dave, maybe you're entitled to some retirement. Maybe you're entitled to some benefits from them. Oh, I didn't come back injured. I said, that's not the idea. The idea is it was a wartime thing. And I talked to a gentleman at work, Fred from out in the garden, that said he'd felt the same way until he got cancer. And then his kids said, Dad, you're entitled to something. You need to go put in for this, and you need to start talking to them about what this is, in case it takes a lot longer to fight this prostate cancer than you think it is. So he came back, after he'd been off for quite a while, he came back in, and I said, so how are things doing? And he said to me, surprisingly, remember that long conversation we had, and I told you who you should try to get in contact with about your husband's benefits? He said, yeah, surprise, I found out that I'm entitled to benefits. He said, I always felt as long as I've come back home and I was healthy and I was in one piece, I didn't feel that I ever needed it. Let it go to somebody else that really needed it. So that is a world of people's concept, consciously and unconsciously, because you feel that you've been blessed enough to make it back in one piece, that you don't want to take away from someone that hasn't. And that's a false statement, because you did go, you did serve, you didn't question at that point. You did do this.
You did what your government asked for you to do.
That's right.
And your government said, after this is all over with, if you're not 100% the same way we sent you over, we would take care of you
Yeah,
came
along
back.
the way, along the way.
When you came back, and he did not realize that actually some of the stuff that
He has had during the years was related to it.
related to it, and that's the whole big
Yes.
thing. I mean, that's the whole process right now you're going through of them trying to say, is it related to what he was doing over there
Yeah,
and
or
everything
not.
else? And we, you know, he's talked about his the fact that he was covered with Agent Orange.
Yeah.
And we know that Agent Orange causes cancer, and that what took 30 some odd years just to prove that in Congress that
Yeah.
that type of stuff did happen.
Yeah.
I saw the bumps and bruises on his chest and everything else. And you said that was his second time having that
Yeah.
stuff removed
Yeah.
from his chest and everything else.
Yeah.
And we
As well as a spot from his back, you know. So, yeah, there are things that you, unfortunately, if you come back and you're not come back crippled or walking or totally maimed for the world to see, you want to live in that false hope that, man, I hate to even say that I feel so lucky that I made it. Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe all these other little things that's been taking place along the way is a portion of that, and you're just not looking at it in another set of eyes.
And so, what was the, how should I say, the final kick to say,
Well, actually,
we need to get something rolling, and because as you said, you know, the economy had changed, housing market had changed, everything was changed. You were losing stuff and everything else. What was the final? What do you think the final thing that you had to say to him? Because I'm gonna ask that of all the people I'm doing, because there's several different interviews I'm gonna be doing with women like yourself who had to say, what was the magic word that I had to say to him?
what the magic word was? Well, in reality, we've been here. This is my oldest son's house that we are now renting. In our retirement, we are renting. We no longer own anything because we lost it all. So in a 10-year time frame from when we got married, and we were together like 3 years or 4 years before that, we had a beautiful home in Hemet that was beautifully done. We both had a job, and you felt, okay, rough times of going through divorces, you finally got a life back together, you go forward from here.
Right.
We didn't waste our money, so we invested, you know, in some places. That was supposed to increase, right? Well, it didn't. And so one of the final things I said to him was, and was a true statement at the time, Dave, we have now lost everything. We still have our health, I think was kind of how I said it. I still have a job and still have insurance to keep us both covered. But I'm working 40 hours a week, driving an extra 10 or more to get to that job, and putting up with the stress of, you know how the stress can be.
Correct.
At work.
Correct.
You know, so where I work. So I said, you know, you're just, in one aspect, you're kind of being selfish, I feel, because we've had time that we could go down to there and find out what we need to do and to try to get it resolved. But what happens if something happened to you tomorrow or something happened to me tomorrow and there is no money to make a plan on what you need to do as far as somebody's burial? That plot is sitting there. If something happened to you, Dave, if I didn't have money sitting in a banking account, which at that point we did not have anything, because we've now lost absolutely all of it and had to go through bankruptcy and then end up short selling stuff, and then you pay taxes on what you short sold, you know? So, I mean, it was a heck of a struggle for three years with all the torment of seeing your money just go, and then realizing that you've scraped the bottom. And you're at your age you are, of 66, 67, 68, those years, because last month I turned 69, that you have nothing to really tell yourself that, hey, you have the money behind you that you could go any place you wanted to be buried, you could go any place and buy something to put somebody in and give them a burial with dignity. That you're now down just like anybody else on the street, that you don't necessarily have that option. You have to go out and say to one of my sons, can you help me out here? and I know that they've got an everyday life and grandkids, and that's not the easiest thing for me to have to go do because I am their parent. I should not have to go ask that question.
Was it very hard for you to explain to explain? Not, no, not Dave. No, your husband.
Yeah.
Was it very hard to explain to your husband what you had to go through, or did he just see what you had to go through to?
No, it was hard to explain it because you still.
He's still in denial.
Still denial that, well, tomorrow or the next day, something, I can still get that phone call. They're still calling me and asking me questions, these companies that he'd worked as a consultant with. But with the economy, nobody was building no new places, nobody was doing nothing else, and they weren't even paying for the consultations. He was now sending them off work and sending them off answers for like freebies because over the years it had worked up to friendship type of a level. So they felt that they could just call and get it. So we didn't have income coming in. So that was where
so he's basically taken advantage of.
He was basically being taken advantage of, as well as with what I worked. We were buying lots of meat when we found it on sale, and that's what helped him start the little from the home jerky business of going around to these mom and pop little places and selling the jerky to individual people that couldn't get out for lunches and stuff.
Right.
So yes, it's been a really tough, hard last 4 years, I would say, to say, okay, you have to do whatever you can do to keep your head above water, and then sometimes you still are just dog paddling. So I just said, hey, I can get up in the morning and be thankful for the first 15 minutes of the, hey, I woke up, I've still got a job, I'm ready to go and stuff. And you can get in that car and think, my God, how many more years am I going to be doing this? Because you can't just curl up and die, you just got to keep going. But if you have nothing to go forward to or to look forward to, then where are you at? You're at the bottom with the rest of the people, so you might as well just claw your way back up and take advantage of what you can possibly get.
And considering that at this time you really thought that you should be actually enjoying your retirement.
Well, I have 4 sons and 12 grandchildren, and they all say, Mom, at your age, their dad has actually been retired for quite a few years. He was one of those last of the lucky people that had a 42-year run with a government-backed job from North American Aviation, which became Rockwell, which became Boeing.
Okay.
So he had one of those jobs that he started at 18 and he finished 42 years later. Never a day without a job.
Wow.
So I feel okay, if I want to just put it in one sense, I worked every day that man did too, because I got him up, his clothes was ready, his meals was fixed, I handled business, as well as I worked out of the home, because a lot of those years I worked out of the home doing other jobs. So, it's like you look at yourself, okay, you see people, and one day I became very angry and I said, you know what? I don't have women friends. I've never in my life had women friends that I said, tomorrow at 2 o'clock we're going to go meet and have lunch. I don't have women friends that I go get nails done with, a hairdo done with. I have to do things on my own. I've always been like an independent person. So now how I work, it's that even Dave and I don't get to spend time together, because if he goes and does what he necessarily has to do, that's my day that I'm cleaning house, because my day off on any given week can be changed from week to week.
Right.
So it just totally took a life of its own of how you have to live. Nobody guaranteed me nothing, but still, at almost 70, you don't think you should have to be fighting for everything either.
No.
So
not the way it's in the grand scheme of things. It was not designed for it to be like this.
No, there should be something that somewhere along the line things should ease themselves up. So it became kind of like a running joke whenever you saw an AARP magazine come to the house. Where in the hell they get the money to even print the magazine, you know. They make it sound like it's so simple. How to take an easy cruise. Yeah, right. Yeah. How to fill up the car tomorrow morning when you gotta go back to work, right?
So now that you guided him straight,
Yeah.
and now he's on a path,
On a path.
of he's got the forms in and everything else, and you're just waiting for that to come back now. Do you feel a little bit more relieved, or do you feel that?
Well, no. Truthfully, relief will come whenever you see like a final answer.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
kind of a thing. So you still have an anxiety thing, but you just kind of put it at the lower level of where anxieties are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just still a muddled question back over here somewhere.
Is he starting to get his appointments to see the particular VA doctors yet? Nothing?
No, he's got nothing of that because they sent him back something and said, you didn't tell us exactly where you were at. Well, he had filled it out and said exactly where he was at.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew what he was in where he was at, even though it didn't say the name Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that where he was at, he still was around the same stuff because they sprayed it around every area.
Correct.
You know, so it wasn't as though the address is different, but the process was the same, you know?
So we're basically playing a
Political game.
Political game
At this point.
Of verbiage and,
Yeah.
and how it was worded.
Well, kind of like you never asked for my help before, now that you're older, why are you asking for my help now?
Right. And
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean we were going to ask for your help.
Mhm.
I just wanted to get some things squared away, answered, and a card,
Mhm.
let's say, that says you are entitled to XXX, to where if something happens to him, I know I can go fight for him.
Right.
And if I don't have those answers, I don't have anything sitting somewhere that's going to help me.
Right.
If you walked out tomorrow and said, hey Barbara, I'm moving, you're my only contact with anybody that I know I can talk to and put a name to and a face to.
But again, I can see, because the first thing that the military VA is going to do is try to say, where were you at in country, prove that you were in country, and all this other stuff like that.
Well, we've got the paperwork to prove all of those things.
And again, it has been known that the VA has been told to slow up. There's
Because of so many other ones coming back.
So the other ones are coming back and everything else, and they're not getting the priority that he deserves, because I do believe he should have priority because of the simple fact that he is a Vietnam vet and he has symptoms that are listed under the words Agent Orange.
Yeah.
And under those particular words, those symptoms and everything else, you were supposed to be pushed up to the head of the line to try to get this stuff taken care of, but they're, lack of a better word, they're dragging their feet right now, I think, is the best way to say it. Is that what you think? Or?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that they're not completely automated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, which kind of like blows my mind. How can they have stacks of paper like this for one person, but you've got enough automation that you can fly something around the world and drop a bomb and find somebody by his license plate, kind of bull crap to blow him up.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't figure out how to find somebody's name in this that says we need to deal with this person with this stack of papers.
Right.
You know, so.
In fact, they were dealing with you have to send them stacks and stacks of papers,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and
it's not even on a computer. This morning, even on the Today Show this morning, they were talking to people at a VA situation that they will not be automated to where all these stacks of paperwork can be scanned and put into a computerized system until the middle to the latter part of 2015. How many more billions, trillions will we spend fighting these situations?
Because by the time they put that system together, the system will be outdated and obsolete.
Yeah.
That's military. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, they literally this morning, and I'm thinking to myself, how ironic, Gregory's supposed to come over today. I'm wondering if he's up this early watching this, that they were showing for one guy in his home had a stack of paper like this in the folders, and he was wearing a brace on his hand, and he said the brace wasn't from military or from working and stuff. The brace is from trying to go through his own personal stuff to try to find out what was going on.
Yeah, I have boxes of stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I have 800 and maybe 1,000 pages of different boxes I've had all built
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
different paperwork and everything else like that. It's just that I got lucky. So and sometimes it is, sometimes it's luck, and sometimes it isn't
It's
luck.
persistent.
It's persistent, but
Yeah.
but as they always say, squeakiest wheel get the most it makes the most noise, gets the people to look at him, and that's what he's doing right now. He's now being a squeaky wheel. He's now being persistent, but it was at a cost of you cracking the whip on him to get him to get him.
Well, truthfully, I think the majority of men are that way.
Mm-hmm.
That as long as you can move and function,
Mm-hmm.
you want to postpone thinking what your destiny is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still, this brain is saying, you're 20, 30, 40.
Right.
Your body is saying, I'm 66, baby, 68. You know, you better wise up a little bit. 67 in a few weeks, you know, to him. He'll be 67 in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we would all like to think we're still in our 30s, that we got a lifetime ahead of us, that we can make things happen all over again. We can rediscover ourselves and go another route. It's not necessarily going to happen that way. Right now, if there's not enough jobs for who is coming back,
Correct.
how do
Correct.
you think you're going to create a new job or a new slot for you to make back enough to take care of yourself somewhere along the line?
Well, and their families too.
And their families too,
And
that's
families
right.
too. So you're hoping that if everything goes correctly, stuff will come back. It will make it so that you both be able to get insurance through the military and
Right.
and
Or whatever, because right now,
take care of
Yeah.
whatever. I'm sorry, please. You were
No.
saying?
well, right now, I mean, granted, I work, I'm lucky enough to work, and I do have us completely covered for eyes, dental, and health,
Right.
medical. Right, but if tomorrow I walked in the building, they said, you're gone, Barbara, I have nothing because I haven't even signed up for the Medicare, because I wanted to keep us covered like this, because at the time, he was too young to be covered under my Medicare. So why should I paid 1.5 years of Medicare because I was instructed to, even though I took them forms and showed that I was having to pay, I couldn't quit my insurance because it would have dropped him, the husband.
Wow.
So I was paying 544 or 584 that I pay at work for our medical coverage.
But we're still not even talking. When you said 584, and you're not even talking about what you have to pay if you had a mortgage.
No, my God, no, I'm talking, that was just insurance, that's what I pay for just our insurance.
Yeah, you're not talking about something. Go get something to eat.
Oh my God, no.
Gas,
Yeah.
nothing else like that. Even if you try to go relax,
No.
you're just talking. That's just on insurance.
That's just on insurance for the two of us to be covered.
Wow.
And that was one of the things that I kept saying, Dave, eventually we're going to, if I lose the job, or if they say, okay, we're not keeping you any longer, okay. They do have a right to say that. I mean, that's in their contract with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can be gone for no reason, no apparent reason, if they make that choice.
Correct.
So I said, we're just fooling ourselves that you don't have these answers when there is a possibility to get answers. Not that we have to have it, and if we didn't have to have it, then maybe we would not use it. But why be without it if you are entitled to it?
Correct. I mean, yes, and he is, in my opinion, he is entitled to it.
Yeah.
Anybody that serves during that time period, and I don't know if he was drafted or he volunteered or whatever, it's still, he went, and he was during that time period, and so he was 100% when he took off, and he's not 100% now, and it didn't catch up to him until a certain age. Some of the different people that came back caught up with him at different ages.
That's right.
And
Because they probably, but maybe they came back and they had enough mental trauma that they drank, they smoked, they did other things that was destroying their health.
Right.
He isn't a person that did that. He's not been a drinker, he's not been a smoker, he's not been that kind of a person that in knowing chemistry and becoming a chemist, it's at where we worked for years and years, him 32 years for the company that we worked for, he had enough sense to know that you don't do the destructive things. So, and to take the vitamins and everything else to try to keep yourself as healthy as possible.
Right.
To where you just can hold on to the jobs you have. So I think that played a big part in it, because it might have just gone the other way had he come back and been caught up in the same routine of what a lot of other people came back here and got caught up in.
Your health, because of your stress dealing with him, how's your health?
Cholesterol sky high. We laughingly have a joke here, you know, I'm sitting at a red light, Dave, I can feel the cholesterol thickening, you know, so, but the cholesterol is high, the blood pressure is high, it's one of those things, that when you don't, and I'm not saying that is all on account of this, because
it seems like a very, very high percentage of this.
Oh my God, yes, because the more you pass that, the more you pass that place that's 3 miles from your everyday life, going and coming, you're seeing it twice a day. So twice a day for a number of miles, you've got that same idea on your mind.
Even if you try to forget about it, you're passing it.
Right, you're passing it, because it happens to be on that road.
Yeah, and
so
it's the one road to get the heck out of here.
That's right. And every
road.
day that you come and go, you can see a new group of flowers. You can see the motorcyclist with the flags. You can see the people parked on the other side of the road selling the bouquets to go in there. So you're reminded with a lot of physical, mental pictures that you carry with you every day. And you're thinking to yourself, my God, wonder if that person was old or young, or what kind of a life they got to live.
Or did they live a life, or
did they live a life, or didn't they get to live a life?
Did they live a life?
Right.
But the stress that has caused you, hopefully you, everything will get better when everything starts coming in, and you start getting the yeses and everything else like that.
Yeses are the answers. That if there's still questions, at least send forth the questions that we can try to answer for you.
Right.
Because now at this point, I've got him interested in working, so now we have to keep him motivated to get the answers, as opposed to, well, 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 dozen no's, and pretty soon you don't have the interest in it anymore. So then we're back to square one.
Right,
and that is what I can't accept at this point.
But that is the way it's designed, in my opinion, because my opinion doesn't count. No. But it's what I see.
You know from experience what the opinion.
What no can do to you. You keep hearing the word no. No, you can't do this. No, you don't qualify for this. No, you don't qualify for that. No, you don't qualify for that. And you gotta sit there and like, okay, you say no now. Okay, it's next year. These rules, they're changing. Oh yeah. They're changing so fast, so quickly, and everything else. And
stroke of a pen can change it all.
Yeah, and I really do think it has a lot to do with the fact that there are not that many veterans in the House or in the Senate.
Oh no. Yeah.
That have actually did service. They paid somebody else to do it, didn't go. Whatever it was, and they don't have this nightmare approaching
you.
Approach them. They have enough money from being senators and representatives and marrying into money and stuff like that they don't have to worry about stuff like this. And this is something that you're trying to get done to make sure that it is done, so it's one less thing to worry about.
That's exactly it. One less thing. I mean, but if you looked at just the costs, unless you said cremate somebody.
Right.
And if that's truly what he would want done, that's one thing. If that's not what I want done, that's another set of rules, right?
Correct.
Right?
Right.
I mean, it is. And you look at every set of rules, or every set of statements, and it's a different dollar sign with it.
And does he realize that if this paperwork isn't done, how hard it's going to be on you?
To follow through up and try to fight it. And to know that, okay, I can't get the answer any sooner, so therefore I can't finish what needs to be done to where I'm not worried about the simple fact that his body is maybe setting someplace or something else is taking place that I don't have control over.
Right. You lose a lot if he does pass away before this paperwork is done. How much hell you're gonna have to go through
To try to get it resolved.
Resolved because they want the veteran. They want
Yeah.
the veteran to say this, that, and everything
And
else.
he can tell you, if you talk to him after a while, that I do drive him crazy. Where do you have the paperwork? Where do you have your tags? Where do you have the stuff? Because I made him find all this stuff and put it in one little safe upstairs.
Okay.
And then I jokingly said, yes, but where in the hell did you put the combination for the safe? I can take it out to the cemetery and say, blow it up, but guys, but all the information's in there, you know. But no, it's not something that you want to dwell on, but you're being rather stupid if you don't realize it, and you realize that your own income has changed so drastically
Right.
in less than a 9-year or 10-year time frame.
I mean, it seems like you went from 60 to 0 that real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're living the high life, and all of a sudden it was just boom, 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 boom,
Right.
boom.
Well,
And,
yes,
and then again, you started thinking more about, well, aren't you entitled to something? And he's like,
yeah.
yeah, I am, but I'm not going to worry about that right now.
Well,
because we're doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, then okay suddenly says, hey man, we've taken a hell of a nosedive here. You know, okay is not okay no more.
Right.
You know?
And so we're really gonna need that money that you would get if you were to put in a claim, found a certain percentage for this, certain percentage for that, this money, these benefits, and everything else. One of the main reasons why I will never leave California, because they actually treat vets very, very, very well here. It's just that, again, he has to get the stuff started and everything else and get it rolling. And
But see, that can truly change too, because if they deem that they don't have to have so many military bases and stuff in the state of California, and that's all it takes is one more stroke of a pen to say we can shut this one down and that one down and that one down, and you know.
Yeah, well, like I said, it kind of hurt my feelings when I saw the March Air Force Base Hospital destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's flat and level now. I mean, like, brand new hospital, never opened.
Yeah.
Still had, tags on, stuff. Still smelling of the new car smell and everything else. And that thing's just this is flat.
Vacant space.
It's vacant space right now.
And nobody ever went into it.
Nobody ever went into it. Nobody ever opened it. And you go, wow, what a waste of money.
Yeah. How many homeless people could have been put in that were military veterans as just a place to live?
Correct. Just like they're doing some of the housing that they're doing on the base now.
Right. Yeah.
But a hospital holds a whole different story.
Oh yeah, because it is there to help protect you and help you survive.
And that hospital would be a better thing, because the only people that have a hospital right now, I do believe close enough right now, it's military, is Camp Pendleton, the next closest military hospital. After that, you have to go to Balboa in San Diego. I mean, having a military hospital not more than 3-4 miles away would have been
for this whole big area.
Riverside and everything else.
And then there's one up near Northridge, isn't there, up in that area?
I believe so.
And then there's a veterans one down in Long Beach area.
Right, but
down near Signal Hill.
But
what would your driving expenses have to be,
and
your family try to get down to even see you if you was in there to try to take care of you?
Right, because where we're right now, it's 2 hours, just 2 or 3 hours without traffic just to San Diego.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine having something built right there.
That was usable.
That was usable, and they decided to go ahead and get rid of it. And somehow they're going to justify the cost of destroying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
never quite got that. How much is going to cost us to destroy something?
Yeah. I mean, you built it, you never used it, and now we're going to destroy it.
So how much did you sell the equipment for, a penny on the dollar?
If they took it out of there.
Yeah, if they even took it out of there.
If they even took it out of
there. Even if they took it out of there, and they probably didn't. Toilets, latrines, showers, you name it.
You don't know. Medical beds, everything, stretchers,
X-ray machines. You name it.
You don't know if they did or didn't.
Yeah.
You just know now.
But nobody was that guy that was standing there checking it off if it did or didn't go out the door.
Yeah, all thing you know is that you went there one day and that building was flat.
That's right.
Everything was gone. Is there really? I know it's a big change for you and everything else. You know what you're going through right now, and now that you've got him on track on getting this stuff so you can be taken care of also. Is there anything else that you think that you would like to say? Because I'm asking questions too. Anything, is there anything really on your mind that you think you want to get off your chest to say that
Well,
is government too big or government too small, or are they forgetting about the little people?
Well,
I don't want to put thoughts in your head, but is there anything in your mind right now that you think that could make a difference, or
to make it a little bit more convenient for people to be able to find where you're at, to even find you to talk to? Because that was one of the hard things. We were looking in phone books 3 or 4 years ago. Who do you even go talk to say that you're in the right place, the right door to try to even start this search?
So there really wasn't anything
Convenient to even start. So that was discouraging also. So how many of these other people are out there roaming around and just floundering that don't know how to find that, and had that one day you had not spoke up and said, well, I'm a military advocate, that let me talk to your husband. I can understand your frustration because you're sitting here very frustrated just trying to talk to me, Barbara. Yeah, frustration with the vein out to here is a little bit of frustration,
Well, it can be, and I'll be talking to other women like yourself, not in the same position, but had to do the same thing. And that's one of the big things why I even put in for this particular volunteer journalist, because there was so much stuff that I knew in my head and I saw that I wanted to try to get other people get it out there, because you get it out there, somebody will talk about it. Somebody might have a better idea than me and you put together.
That's right.
And you might start thinking about it. And again, there could be somebody like yourself who's sitting there going,
"There's a reason."
Fred, did you go to Vietnam? Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't you doing something about this? Why don't we have a change? Why don't we have blue ID cards? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have our veteran benefits? Why don't we have pensions and stuff like that? Why don't we have this stuff?
You can say literally, where I work, the company I worked for. I won't say their name again, but the company I worked for. And it doesn't affect you because you have the correct card. But how many elderly people come in there that are in a cart riding around because they cannot walk, stand, they've got a tank to breathe with and all these other things, and they come in there, and don't you give a veteran's discount? How come you don't get a veteran discount? Well, the programming says up here, unless you have this colored card that tells me that you was injured in a war, you don't get that type of thing. I mean, and some people are so shut off by that probably are entitled to it, that they've never pursued it because they don't have the gas, they don't have the time, they don't have somebody else in their family that will go help them fight for it.
And I think that if I can logically put to it and actually say is that you don't want them to ask, because that's when they start asking, they're going to have to start doing something about it.
That's right.
And I'm hoping that what you're saying right here, if it does get picked up by the LOOXCIE Corporation and everything else, put on their website and everything else, that people will see that you must ask. If you don't ask, nobody's going to tell you anything.
Nobody is going to give you anything, even though you're entitled to it.
Correct.
No one is offering you, here's my wallet, take the money. No, but if I help put that money there, then I should be entitled to help use part of that money.
Correct. And again, he did something that other people didn't do. He said that he would go off and fight for the United States of America, listen to his commander-in-chief, follow these rules and everything else. And the fact is, if I came back broke, you said you would take care of it and fix me.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we're trying to get done now because he's just now feeling it. And I know that some people push past that pain
Yeah.
and just deal with it to a certain time period.
Or in the very case of us,
Mm-hmm.
during the time that the things was diagnosed and taken off of him,
Mm-hmm.
we both were very fully employed and fully insured.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many years was that? If that was within a 10-year time span, he was like in his mid-50s. So that's what it took his to begin to show up.
And other people, it showed up immediately as soon as they got back.
Yeah,
and
because
some people,
I'm saying because of maybe how they lived their life once they got back here.
I know you were
They was a little bit more destructive maybe with their life with what they did,
I mean,
so therefore it showed up a lot faster.
How they were coping with the nightmares, how they were coping with
Yeah.
the depression,
Yeah.
how they were coping with the other things, the flashbacks and everything else, how they were coping with that. But you said he came back healthier, exercising, taking pills, controlling his diet, everything else, and that process.
And to have the mental capabilities that he had from being a chemist, to realize, hey, you don't just listen to a doctor, you use common sense and say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Don't do it on an everyday basis. You learn how to meditate, how to get rid of some of your stress to start with.
Right.
Right?
Right.
As opposed to just doing it to where your shoulders are up to your ears before the day's over, you know?
And if you had anything to say to people out there right now who have to start where you started at, what would you say to them?
I would say, even if it takes an argument, you have to do it. Even if you take upsetting your mate, you have to do it. Because if you're the one that's left holding the bag and trying to solve this after the fact.
If you were that person and you wanted to say something out to the millions and hopefully millions and millions of people who might get a chance to see this, what would you want to say to them if they were in your position?
Whether it takes an argument or a little tiff between you and a mate, you just have to be persistent. Because in reality, if something happens to your mate and you don't have this all squared away, you've got the headache, you've got the anger that's still left on you of trying to say, he didn't take care of it, and how many times did I ask him to take care of it? So you need to do it to relieve some of your own stress and anger, but to know that you've got everything as done as you possibly can before it's ever needed, if you're entitled to it. We didn't ask for it any time all the other years when we didn't need it. Now is the time that we have to pursue it and say, what we need to have the proof in our hands that we're entitled to it. So come the day, heaven help either one of us or both of us at the same day needs it, that my kids will know where to pick up that piece of paper and know what to go do.
Well, Barbara, I want to thank you for your time and everything else. I really appreciate what you went through, and I'm glad that I could be of help with trying to relieve some of the stress of what you went through and everything else.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and thank you again.